Hi everybody, it's Nikki again, and I'm here to do part 2 of my bad sensor evidence video series for your viewing pleasure. Again, not medical advice, this is just my personal experience, my personal numbers, and my asking Medtronic to listen up and see if there's any information in here maybe that could help them get these sensors back on track. Okay, I did in the first video, I talked about my calibration factor assumptions as I've gathered them all on my own. So that's important because they may or may not be right, but I know what's right for my own numbers because I've been using them for a long time. So again, I don't know if they apply to anybody else. My guess is they do. And the reason I think they do is because right around the time I started to see an inflation in calibration factors in that range, which I'll call an artificial inflation. Soon thereafter, there started to be more and more reports of people having difficulty getting into auto, more and more problems with people getting sensor updating or no calibration occurred, or those kind of errors. And I did not get those often with healthy sensors. And I now get them very easily with the sensors as they are. And I know how to navigate these sensors. But these sensors are difficult to navigate because of that inflated calibration factor. Okay, so for video 2, I thought I would show you an example of a calibration factor range in a good sensor. And here's my here's my graphic. And I know that's terrible, but I don't have any time to do anything more than that. So I'm trying to get these done. I got T-Slim and Dexcom in the works, so I'd like to go over there with a clear mind. So that's my graphic. And I'll go back to that in a second. Okay, so I'm gonna read what I put together for my Facebook group. Here is my sensor, my well-behaved sensor from back in February. This is when my sensors were still acting right. This particular sensor ran from February 2nd to the 7th, and I took a total of 121 BGs over the course of that 6 days. February, things were looking really good, very predictable and usable and manageable numbers with those sensors. In fact, I think, and I have to go back and look at my logs again, but I think it was around May, which is when I started to see this inflation. And since then, the inflation's gotten greater and greater. Okay, so over that time, back to February, over that time, 72% of my BGs were under 150. I mention this because it becomes important as the sensors start to struggle. 26% were 151 to 200, and I had 2 that were above a 200. This is important. This is really important because with a lower range of blood sugars, you should have a lower range of calibration factors, and they should kind of move up together. And in fact, there's that graphic again. You can see how this is my blood sugar range, and that little dotted line is my calibration factor, but you can see it mimics it. It's a little bit higher, right? I mean, it's a little bit later, right? So this is, my peak here is 101 to 150. And my peak here is in the 5 range, but that's okay. Like 5 range is excellent, no problems with calibrating in the 5 range. And they kind of shadow one another, so that's a healthy sensor. Okay, as calibration factors are often proportionate to blood sugar, the distribution of these resemble the distribution of the BG values, with 71% of my factors being under 6, 27% being in the 6 range, and less than 1% being at 7. So again, I had 72% of my BGs were under 150 and 71% of my factors were under 6. Then 26% were 151 to 200 and 27% were in the 6 range, and 1% were above 200 and in that 7 range. So that was with a healthy sensor. Nothing got into the 8s, and 8s is my problem, is my trouble zone. Okay, so if we were thinking auto mode, then over the course of 6 days, I had 0 readings. Over the course of 6 days, I had 0 readings that would have given me difficulty with getting in and out of it. Assuming auto's range is about 3 to 8, there is nothing here that would have caused a problem. Obviously, the same would be true in manual mode because manual mode is even more relaxed. So manual mode's range could even be, let's say 2 or 3 to probably 10 is my guess. Assuming manual mode, okay. Summary, sensor lasted 6 days, 72% of BGs were less than 150, 26% of BGs were 151 to 200, approximately 2% of BGs were above 200. proportionately, 71% of my calibration factors were in the 3 to 5 range, 27% of my CFs, my calibration factors, were in the 6 range, and approximately 1% were in the 7 range. 0% were at an 8 or higher. Good sensor, good times. Okay. So the next sensor I was going to discuss is a temperamental sensor, I'm going to call that, or a faulty sensor. It did not fail. So the reason I had a hard time labeling it is because it didn't fail, and some sensors just fail. This one actually went 8 days, so I was able to use it for a good amount of time. However, in a drastic, comparison, 52% of my calibration factors were at an 8 or above. So again, faulty or temperamental sensor, I was able to use it, but it's just a sign of how when there's that inflation, it causes problems. Meaning auto mode would not be a no-go. Okay, so that's that. It seemed fast compared to my 89-minute video, the last one. Okay, so I'll be back to do my faulty sensor. Thanks for watching. Bye.